I just want to take a moment of your time to thank those who were involved in the 2,000 Strong project up until now, and also to share with those that are not, to show you what is going on with a very exciting project we have running until the end of the year. Before I go further, let me show you why we are doing this project. Let me show you why this project is absolutely necessary. This is Mary. When we met Mary, she was living alone, completely locked in the dark. She spent all of her life in the darkness. And the reason for this was, for all she had a loving single mother, that her mother had to go to work. And one day, many years ago, when her mother came home from work, she discovered Mary had been raped by a passerby. Because of that, and due to the unstable home that they had, and the lack of any support from family, friend, government, her mother had felt she had no option but to lock Mary inside a darkened room with the windows closed to avoid anybody getting to her daughter and attacking her daughter again. Mary now lives at our other children's village, but this is why we need more space. Children like Mary, who we are meeting every single week. 2,000 strong, we are hoping to find 2,000 volunteers who will agree to raise a minimum of $100 between now and New Year's Day, or more if they can, just in case we don't get 2,000 people coming forward. That would be helpful, of course. And in doing so, allow us to finish construction of stage 1 of a new dedicated children's village for single mothers with special needs children in crisis and special needs children who don't have any parents and guardians, who will find the love and support of such mothers who have the very best training in the world to care for a special needs child, having raised one. As I speak now, I know these children are there. For whatever reason, you can hear my voice now. But I know this also, nobody else in the world, as far as I know, is fighting for those children. And therefore, I hope you can join us in bringing to reality a solution for these little ones who so desperately need it and absolutely deserve to have the life that the children at Featherstail, full of joy, currently have. For more details, visit www.sharetanzania.com/2000strong. Thank you for the love and support, guys. God bless you all. Bye. I give thanks for my God today. My only hope going forward as this human organism in this wonderful Garden of Eden, which has been polluted and fallen in so many ways, is that God and the love and compassion revealed in His presence that the will of that love takes over the activity as frequently, as much as possible, of this human organism and its intelligence and its actions. To do that, the organism must be in a state of nothingness, a stillness beyond any notion of stillness the intellect can comprehend. And the more free the brain is of the thought-based identity, the more free the intelligence is to be moved by the will of unconditioned love. I have a lot of humans out there, a lot of people who write me and they say, I can't control my mind. From what I see from all spiritual teachers, all mystics, even the Messiah, the Buddha, all encapsulated speak that a stillness of mind is the arising of the presence of God, the voice of God, the will of unconditioned love. How do I therefore control my mind? And it's a funny thing because you can't control your mind, because the one who is trying to control your mind is merely thought. And what you are referencing when you say control your mind is you want to control the never-ending stream of thoughts that are passing through. If you take time to investigate and inquire into the sentence, no matter if I meditate, if I use music, if I dance, I can't control my mind. This is a message I had recently from someone, I forget who it was, and I use you as an example for many humans who have that problem. And speaking as this human organism, before I knew my God as intimately as I am blessed to, also faced that same issue. The never-ending mind, the never-ending stream of thoughts. And also faced that same problem of trying to control it. You can't control your thoughts because the one you are trying to use to control it is an illusion of self based in thought. When you try to control your thoughts like that, you are giving birth to a character in thought. In an attempt, you are fueling the fire of thought by trying to use a sense of self based in thought, its will, its intelligence, its paths, its processes, to shut down itself. And so you start this notion of a process from a character based in thought in an attempt to silence thought. And by engaging the process of a character in thought to silence thought, you merely stoke the fires of thought. You fuel the illusion of the thought-based self, trying to control the mind. And so you will never control your mind. Never. And the reason you won't is the one who wants to control it in that sense is the mind's creation of a persona, a self-image based on its memories, based on the labels handed to it inside society, whilst giving it a sturdy sense of egoic self and never offering the alternative, arguably on purpose, based upon the metaphysics of this fallen world, as a Christian would call it. So long as the human stays in the thought-based identity, even if they are longing for the presence of God and wish to shut down that thought-based identity, if they persist in using the thought-based identity on such a noble pursuit as that, still they remain in the soils that can be tilled and nourished by the enemy, who wants to give birth to the separation, and the separation is born in arrogance and pride, and that arrogance can disguise itself as a thought-based identity trying to liberate itself from thought. For it must do it itself. It must not surrender itself to the will of creation, which it is. It separates from the truth of reality, that creation is it, and therefore has no trust in it and feels it must control, it must take ownership. This is all a fallacy. It's all based in thought. Your memories are just memories. Your academic achievements are just memories. This is not who you are. Before you built on top of the essence of the life force of the soul animating the body that you are, you are something far more permanent. And when your awareness can reach that, not that it's your awareness, when awareness falls to there, awareness that you are, that has been captured by the technology of the body and formed into this persona, when the technology of the body can be stabilized and the awareness can come back to the pre-programmed state before the world told the vessel what it is, there you will connect to that pool of compassion, unity, oneness, and a natural stillness is born out of that. And so how does that help you? And why is that important? I've often felt that God chose such a useless vessel as this to prove this point. A man who had struggles with drugs and crime and self-harming thoughts. This horrific persona, this mind-based sense of self, addicted to the world, lying, cheating, breaking the law, using drugs. This sense of self, for God to prove the power that is the spirit moving in a human organism, God chose such a one as that. He chose such a useless human organism with a useless persona as that, speaking about this human organism in the memories and records I have inside me. Because it's the evidence that any greatness in the realm of love that will happen in this world, however small your impact may be, however small my little garden of love that I have the blessing of nurturing inside this world as the human organism speaking, it can only be born of spirit, of the will of unconditioned love of God, of the presence of God, the awakened state. It can only be born of that. It can't be born of the persona. And so it's a great testimony to the power of spirit to take a human organism that was programmed with such a vulgar persona as this one's was. And it shows that it doesn't matter who you are, or where you are, or how low you've gone, God's love can reach you. Not only reach you, but can reach others through the organism you are. And the depths that the mind, thought-based identity has taken it is irrelevant to that presence of spirit. So long as the presence of spirit is present. And in thought it's not. Only in nothingness is it. And so you may say, so how on earth does one get rid of the thought? That voice asking is the one that wants to control the process. And it is based in thought. And it served you in many ways wonderfully. but its time has come to admit its own arrogance and to allow itself to let go and acknowledge that it's not beating its heart, that it didn't know how it grew the body. It doesn't know. And so it's akin to this. As I sit here now, the sounds of the world are plentiful. They are arriving with the eardrums, and they can come into the body, and the mind, the brain can grab them, and it can say trees rustling in the wind, wind blowing, my son in the background. It can grab at those sounds and try to organize them, to compute them, to fragment them. And that is needed at times to function together. But for the presence of God, that is not needed. And so we must allow those sounds to come and just let them play with our eardrums. Just let them enter and not be boxed, not be organized, not be grabbed. Just to partake in sound arriving. When you were a baby, before you knew language, you knew how to do this. Unless you become as children, you may not enter the kingdom. The kingdom is there. The kingdom is there. And so allow the sounds to play. Let them come. Don't judge them. Don't organize them. Don't label them. Just let them play. And after a while, as you sit there, let what you see through your eyes, let it do the same. Let the shapes, the light, the form, the movements, let them arrive in your eyes, but don't grab them with your mind. Don't label them. Don't organize them. Don't fragment them. Don't throw words over them. Just let it come. Let the vessel relax into that. Pre-language, pre-control as a baby. Let what you see arrive. Don't organize it. Don't grab it. Let it come. Don't label it. Don't define it. Don't say this is its use. Don't say this is its science. None of that. None of it. Just let it arrive with you. Let no observer try to organize it. No sense of an observer. Let what you see arrive. Let what you hear play. Let what you see play with your eyes, hear play with your ears. Allow, allow. As you fall into that state of allowance, now allow your thoughts in exactly the same way. Allow them. Let them come. Let them pass. Don't grab them. Don't hold on to them. Don't take it and say, that's me. That's what I must do. Just let them come and pass. As you are letting the sound come and the sight come, let the thought do the same. Let it arise. Let it pass. Let it arise. Let it pass. If you feel yourself grabbing, don't grab. And if you must realign, realign. And if you persist in that folly, in time you will recognize that the thoughts passing, even the thoughts that there must be some process that I must engage in to shut down thought, you will recognize that the one watching the thought is not thought. And you will recognize the identity that wants to control things is not thought. And if it really does arrive with you, your thoughts may say, right, how do I keep hold of this? Let that thought pass, because that's going to sever you from it. There is a stillness, and in time there the mind will subdue. And that which you had hoped for, controlling the mind, will be unnecessary. It will be unnecessary because the mind enters a natural stillness, as you no longer move into the illusion of thought needing to be a doer, or the illusion of there being the observed and the observer, which is based in thought. You recognize the participation in it all, the inseparability of it. You recognize the one looking through you at nature is the same nature looking back. And there, when we remain there, the voice of God is born. Because the there is where we change our spirit. That space in consciousness is what the word spirit points at. I am confident of that by now. The Holy Spirit of compassion is in that relaxed presence of God. The spirit of doing, of controlling, is the spirit of the world. And the God of this world is not the Holy Spirit. As we know, the Holy Spirit is the intermediary left inside the 3D realm, the 3D matrix, for us to connect with the higher. That awakened state, the allowing, is true surrender. No more story of you, of your wounds, of your victim mentality. No more story, no more spiritual identity, no more worldly identity. Just a human organism surrendered to the now, of its own accord, not of the will of an ego, of its own natural connection, of its own roots to nature, reunified by ultimately hitting the sleep button on the thought-based identity. Very timely rumble of thunder. You can't control your mind because you are your mind. The longer you allow that space that I hoped to have led you to, the more you will witness that you are not your thoughts, and the construction of an identity it's led you to believe you are. And when you do that, you move to the will of spirit. For in there the human organism is free and empty of a worldly identity, the spirit of the world that moves in it, and is therefore able to be moved by the will of unconditioned love, which we have commonly pointed at with the term Christ, but this is what it is. The compassion awakened inside a human. And for compassion to be awakened inside a human, they must feel immense peace. And the immense peace is only known when the mind stops. And the mind can't be stopped by the mind. Only the awareness can free itself from the shackles of the technology of the mind. It's absolutely necessary for us to know God's power, to arise in that state of consciousness. For in that state of consciousness, the identity of God becomes the movement of the intelligence and the actions of the vessel. And as I said earlier, this human organism had such a dreadful thought-based self, which still sometimes comes forward and challenges the will of God. If the work is not present, if it gets too stimulated. But what a testimony that only the spirit animating the vessel will do. For the persona will destroy God's plans. For the carnality is enmity to the laws of God. That means that the thought-based identity is outside of the catchment of God's will, God's law, God's movement. The thought-based identity plays into the will of the spirit of the world, and its pride, its arrogance, its selfish ambition. When you get there, your mind will be perfectly still. When your mind is perfectly still, your heart is perfectly felt. When your heart is perfectly felt, God is perfectly heard. I think I will leave it there. I love you all. I am working on a site to put a course together to help with this, and so I hope that will bring some comfort to some people out there when it's ready. For now, God bless. I love you all.